right, this week we're coming a lot more into the mechanics, the biomechanics. So last week we talked a lot about the philosophy and more about the energy body and these big concepts. So if you remember correspondence and resonance, you're a miniature version of the universe and you come in and out of alignment with different energies. Is there any questions on that now that we've had a while to sit with that concept? Make sense? Cool. And then we use these strange shapes as like a sacred geometry to call in a particular energy. And then we rushed through last week the chakra system, so this energy system in the body, and we talked about how each shape corresponds to a different type of energy. So we talked about, for example, Muladhara, base chakra, and that's connected to the earth energy. These are your grounding poses. So most Muladhara poses are your forward folds when you bend forwards, for example. And we generally, as a very general rule, and there's a million and one exceptions to this rule, we'll generally sequence a yoga class. So when you come to any yoga class, it will be sequenced chakra to chakra, working its way up. So if you go to a class that has inversions, so inversions where you go upside down, you generally wouldn't start a yoga class in a headstand. You'd work your way to that. You work your way energetically up. And then that final shape we have, Shavasana, where we lay on the ground. So Shavasana, there's so much. We can do a 6-week course on this shape, but that strange shape, this is the one that people, of all the shapes when people first come to yoga, this is the one that weirds them out. Not the warriors, not the pigeons, but this lying on your back with your eyes closed. There's a lot of reasons that we do that. I'm going to share a couple of them tonight in the hope that you're able to drop in. So in yoga, you'll hear it said all the time, Shavasana is the most important shape that you do in your whole practice. Shavasana is the shape where if you've got a class of new people from the front of the room, you'll see a lot of this happening. So it's useful to understand, like, why do you lie on your back at the end of yoga class with your eyes closed? Shavasana is the Sanskrit word for corpse, so pretty morbid. It's called the corpse pose, and it is this metaphorical or this symbolic death of the version of you that walked into the room. So the version of you that walked into the room might have been in resonance, might have been tuned into some frustration, tuned into some anger, tuned into whatever it is that we tune into in our day. And then you work through it, and it is this metaphorical death of that version. And then we roll over to the right side, and the right side represents the future in yoga. And a new version of us gets up, and a steadier and a calmer version of us gets up. And if that's all too weird for you, think right back to week 1 where we talked about how every shape in yoga is a sympathetic event in the body. It's a stress event in the body. So we stress the body on purpose. Opening your muscles is not relaxing. It's not a relaxing thing. So when they've taken people into laboratories and measured the responses to things like stretching, it was, I think, surprising for a lot of people to find that the stretch isn't relaxing. So it gets the heart rate up, it gets you a sympathetic event in the body. And your job is to steady yourself through these micro stress events, through the poses. The idea being, if you can figure out how to center yourself and how to find your breath and how to breathe when you're on one leg or when you're upside down, when you put your hands bound behind your back on one leg upside down, then you're going to be better able to do it when you're in traffic, when you're at the checkout, when you're talking to your boss, when you're trying to feed your kids dinner, whatever it is. So we practice stressing ourselves out in here, and it's like this toning of your nervous system. And then you lie down at the end because you need to let the stress response die. Because you don't want to carry it out of here, because remember what happens to your brain when you've got a long stress response? That part, the hippocampus, part of the brain starts to diminish. So that Shavasana is like the ending of it all. So it's really important shape to take at the end. We haven't had enough time because I talked too much in the last 2 weeks to really experience that. We're going to experience it tonight. So I want to talk you through more of a biomechanical approach to the shapes, but I want to start with a huge caveat and say to you, like, there's all this information about yoga, like we don't compare ourselves in yoga, it's not competitive, it's your own practice. This is so true, but we all have egos. And sometimes we do look around the room. Why doesn't my body do what this body does and what her body does? And I want to explain to you, yoga is going to change a lot of things in your life, lots of things. We've touched on a lot of reasons why already. One thing yoga is not going to change, and I would be so bold as to say the one thing yoga is not going to change, is your bone structure. It's not going to change your skeleton. And I want to give you some examples of how differently we are made. So most of the information that we have about the body, and I know there's some medical people in here, and so you'll probably know this, comes from research that has either been done on corpses, but the live research, most of the baselines that we have for things like blood tests and things like that have come from white male university students. So it's this pretty narrow cohort that we have declared as normal, these normal ranges. If you get interested in this, as a teacher, I'd recommend his name's Paul Brillies, and he shows human skeletons as a yoga teacher to really bring home this point. So I just want to give you one example of how different our bodies all are. If we think about the pelvis, should have brought my skeleton in, but I didn't. But think about the pelvis. So we've got this bone structure. You've got these big bones that look like elephant ears here. And then you've got your hip socket. You've got the femur, the thigh bone that comes up. And it's a ball at the top, and it fits into a socket. So like a ball and socket joint. And that's why your hip can have this kind of movement through it. Some people have a really shallow socket, and some people have a really deep socket, and that's bone structure. All right, that's nothing that you can change. I have a really shallow socket for my hip. How do I know that? Because if I can go pretty far into a forward fold, so I can bend down pretty far into a forward fold. If you have a really deep socket, and that femur head sits right up in a socket, at some point when you start to bend forwards, you're just going to be grinding bone into bone. And it doesn't matter how flexible you get, it doesn't matter how mindful you get, how much you master the breath, you're not going to push bone through bone in a yoga class. I would be horrified if you did. Please don't do that. All right, so your bone structure varies. So it is absolutely futile to look around and be like, one day I'm going to be able to do that. Maybe not. There's other ones like the shoulder joint as well. Some people's shoulder joint is more shallow. And so in yoga, sometimes we're saying things like tuck the elbows in, you know, when you lower down. And I will say tuck the elbows in. For some people, tuck the elbows in is going to look like this. For some people, the elbows tucked in is going to look like this, because that's where their bone structure is going to let them get to. All right. So now that we know that, and this goes, I could give you 6 weeks on this and all the different areas of the body where we are like physically, structurally different in our bones. So just knowing those two little bits, let's all just forget about comparing to anyone else, or looking at maybe a yogi on Instagram and being like, oh, if I just really train hard, one day I'll do that shape. Maybe not, like maybe never. And that's part of the process, is this coming into this acceptance and finding your limits in a really non-violent way. So feeling into your body. And one of the things, you know, that discernment that we talked about in the first week, part of your discernment is knowing, like, is it my mind telling me stories here that I need to stop? And am I in a habit of just like not going into uncomfortable things? Or is it my body and my actual physical structure telling me to stop? That's part of your discernment that you need to figure out as a yogi. So if you have a personality like mine, where I'm quite, I've got a lot of yang energy, we would say in yoga, like that very masculine energy, like do, like produce and like, you know, really, I've got Capricorn in my chart, if that means anything, turn on, you know, the ram, just like charge, like power through. I'm not that person. I've had to really learn, okay, I probably need a rest. I'm like, I've charged through. That's my typology. So what yoga has taught me is probably the hardest thing, the most advanced thing I'll ever do in yoga is rest when I need to. That for me is bigger growth than a headstand, than a handstand, than anything else. It's huge for my ego to like take a child's pose. That's why we sometimes call it warrior four, to take a child's pose. Some people, my very best friend in the world, who also used to teach at Zero Point, and she'll be back, she is the opposite. She has this personality where, man, it takes a lot to motivate her to do stuff. Really takes a lot to motivate her to do stuff. So she spends the whole class in child's pose. That's really different from me spending the whole class in child's pose. And a teacher isn't going to tell you this. You've got to figure this out about yourself. You've got to know your tendency. Is my tendency to push through and like ignore? Or is my tendency to like maybe not try so much and let myself off the hook all the time? And we all sit somewhere in between that. So know that about yourself, because it's going to help you to find that discernment that you need when you're coming into different shapes. All right. We're going to talk through forward folds again. We already did that in week 1. We're going to do a refresher. We're going to talk through heart openers or back bends. Tonight we're going to move through side to side movement and a twist. So we've got quite a lot to get through this evening. Please come to stand and bring your block with you. I just want us to remember the inner and the outer spirals. Does anyone remember these vaguely, roughly? Good. So the inner spiral, you think of squeezing the thighs inward and rolling the hips back. So I show you from slide on a really exaggerated inner spiral. So it will look like ducking the tail right now. So remember, we place our hand on our lower belly and our heart. And when we do an inner spiral, so roll the thighs back, the hands move further away. So we've got lots of length happening from the pubic bone to the heart. Does anyone remember what shape we use an inner spiral for? Let's try it out. Make an inner spiral, fold forward, see how it feels in your body. Beautiful, come back up. Make the inner spiral, so squeeze the block back, fold backwards. How does that feel in your body? We'll figure it out by trying the other one. Let's make an outer spiral. Roll the thighs forward, squeeze the bottom. Now this part gets shorter, this part gets longer. Take a forward fold with this. Good. Lift the heart up with this. Is it in any way clear? Not yet? Yes. So when we fold forwards, we make the inner spiral. So roll the thighs back, and you want length through here. Quick refresher on why we want length through here. Remember we talked about L5, that part of the spine where everyone gets lower back pain, and sometimes we use it as a hinge instead of using the actual hinge in our body. So if we keep the length here, then we're not going to open L5, and we're not going to be pulling off the lower back like we all do at home. I pick up my 1-year-old like this all the time, and my back feels it. All right, so to avoid using that gap in the vertebrae here, L5, when we fold forwards, we lift and lengthen the front of the body, keep all of that, and then think hinging from the hips. You guys are awesome. Beautiful. When we fold backward, we want to do the same thing. We want to avoid crunching into the lower back, because that's what most people do in a back bend. That's where most of us will feel a back bend. So you want to lengthen that area in the lower back, so you're not crunching into it, and then you want to push the heart away. Oh, you guys are awesome. I wish you all just moved in unison. That was so nice. All right. Let's try it again, just to really lock it into our bodies. So make the inner spiral, roll the thighs back, lift the heart away from the belly. We've got lots of length here. Beautiful. Fold forwards, in from the hips. Really nice. Come back up. Keep the inner spiral. Let's just feel the difference. Keep the inner spiral. So lift through the front of the body and fold backwards. And most of us will immediately feel that around here. Is that where that's landing for people? We've got that crunch happening. Beautiful. Let's not be called it. We're not doing it again. Roll the block forward. Make that outer spiral. So squeeze the bottom, open the inner thighs. And now fold forwards here. Beautiful. We're all pretty restricted. That's awesome. Good. Roll that block forwards, and now lift the heart up. and hopefully it moves the sensation from here into more of an even sensation. Beautiful. That's really breaking it down. When we move through these in a class, it's pretty fast, and I've got really good news. It's already programmed in there for you. So most of the time, if you're in a flow class, we'll stand at the front of the mat and we'll do something like reach up on an inhale. What are we doing here? We're making that in a spiral. So see how this bit just grew longer? And then it's preparing you. So you're already set up with that, as long as you don't do something really weird like that to come down, which I've never seen happen. As long as you keep that and then come down into your forward fold, you're all good. So good news is you don't really have to be thinking about it so much the whole way through your class. I want to talk about bending sideways. Feel free to take a seat because I'm going to chat at you for a bit, but feel free to stay standing if you're happy. Does anyone have an example in their life where you do this? Not at Woolies, just like getting stuff as you go along. No, the only time we open the side of our bodies like that is in an emergency. When we are grabbing something, I'm going to grab my son from running onto the road, or when we're getting out of the way of something. That's the only time we open the side of our body. So I want to talk to you about what happens to us when we open the side of our body on purpose. Yogis would say, we talked about this last week, remember all those unprocessed experiences that we have? Like maybe we couldn't have a reaction in the moment, so we just follow it down, they get stuck in our body and we start moving differently. Yogis would say, because if you're in an emergency, and when I say emergency, like let's use the example of me just grabbing my son, because he is fast and he's dangerous. So I probably do this like a few times a day, just trying to grab him from whatever next adventure he's going on. But I don't then grab him, put him to safety, and be like, okay, I'm just going to feel that bit of fear in my body, and I'm just going to let that response come up, and maybe there's like some mum guilt or some mum tears or whatever. I don't do that. I go about my day. Right? So jammed in the side of our bodies, according to the yogis, is a whole lot of those experiences. So it's often said in yoga that when we open the heart, that's, remember I said last week, sometimes you find yourself crying in yoga and it's terrifying or really angry. A lot of the time we'll say when you open the heart, that's when people cry. In my experience as a teacher, I've taught a lot of classes now, this is the one that really gets people. But now that you're forewarned about it, it's not going to get you because your subconscious mind is going to come up and protect you tonight. But know that for the future. A couple of biomechanical things. Think back to the pelvis. So we've got the elephant ears, and then we've got our ball and socket. And then we've got our spine that's going to run down all the way to the tailbone. So you've got your tailbone, and then you've got your vertebrae. And in the bottom of the vertebrae are actually fused together. There's no gaps. We know this, yeah? And that's called your sacrum. And then we come up to those elephant ears, and you've got a joint called your sacroiliac joint, your SI joint. This is a joint that causes a lot of back pain in people, because this is a joint that really doesn't like to have torsion on it. And when I say torsion, it means like we don't like to have the hips out of alignment like this. And sometimes, you know, when you see people that maybe stand like this all the time, or parents that just have their kid on one hip all the time, and then you change sides, you're like, that's really weird. And you just go back to your habit. So this joint is something I want us to talk about and think about when we're opening the side of the body, because it's really, really important. I feel like there's, I don't want to say hysteria, but a lot of paranoia in yoga about alignment these days. And I don't subscribe to a lot of it, but I do really subscribe to the SI joint and keeping that nice and safe. Because it's one of those joints, this is like when women birth babies, this opens, and then for a lot of us, it doesn't close back in. My pelvis is a very different size to my pre-baby pelvis, much wider. This is what gets wobbly at the end in pregnancy, all right? When you want a really stable SI joint, You don't want an unstable SI joint. I want you to pay attention to how you stand this week and like where you load and which leg is in front. Like start to notice this about yourself because it's going to give you some information here. When we are coming into a side bend, let's take a standing side bend because it's probably the biggest one that we do. Watch from side on. This is what most of us will do because we've got so much feeling coming in here that we're so unused to. We don't feel the side of our body, again, unless it's in an emergency, and then we get adrenaline, so we don't feel it anyway. So when we feel into the side of the body, a lot happens, and what most of us tend to do is round forwards, and that's just putting a whole lot of pressure through this SI joint. What we don't want to do, and what's going to make you feel more, but what we don't want to do is do that leaning forward. So when you bend side to side, you want to think the chin lifting up and the shoulder staying in line with the hip. Come to standing for a moment. We're just going to feel into that. We won't go too deep into the side bend just yet. Beautiful. So plant the feet about hip distance apart. Bring a little tuck into the pelvis. A little lifting of the hip bones, really nice, and hands come onto the hips. We're going to go to about 4 out of 10. Yeah. Please extend the right arm up. We'll take a nice big breath in, and then take a little lean over to the left. Beautiful. Pause here. Feel what happens in your lower back when you just drop that top shoulder towards the earth. So feel the sensation's going to really change there. And now come back up and open, 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 open. And can you feel it move from more to here to down here when you come across? But we're going for here. This is what we want to open. When we want to open through this area, we're going to do it safely in our forward fold. Let's even up our bodies with the other side. You'll have one side tighter than the other as well. Super normal. We'll learn that about ourselves right now. Take a big breath in. And then lean over, definitely my tight side here. Roll the top shoulder forwards. Feel where the sensation moves to. Good, and then roll back open. Nice, you guys are awesome. So when we're bending sideways, and there's lots of ways we bend sideways in yoga. We do it standing. Sometimes we'll do it like with a knee on the ground. We do seated lateral stretches, things like this. We even do some lying down ones. Same principles are going to apply. Now to see, I'm going to talk to you about twisting. So just a few more of the biomechanics, and then we're going to put it into practice this evening. All right. Same thing applies in a twist. We're speaking about that SI joint. So the elephant ear bones, and you don't want one coming forwards and the other going back. Basically, you want to keep your pelvis nice and steady. So if we had to come into a twist from sitting down, and we do that pretty often, so if you could bring your legs into some kind of cross-legged arrangement, beautiful, and lift the front of the heart up, and then nice and simply just pick up the right hand and bring it to the left knee. Beautiful, and now start to turn that heart towards the left there. Nice. Feel what happens when you locate your right hip bone and when you pull the lower belly in, belly button to spine, and now lift the heart up and rotate the heart around. And now relax everything, let the belly go soft. Let whatever happens in the hips as you pull with that right hand to turn the heart around. But come back. What I want to talk to you about is what we want in a twist is to have the pelvis not follow us. All right, so you want to think about a twist starting more or less from the back of the heart. That's where we start to rotate. That's lumbar spine, they don't really move very much at all. The mid-spine moves a little bit more. Maximum movement through the top of the spine. A twist, the architecture of your shape is going to follow that intelligence of the body. So we don't really try to bring the pelvis around with us. In a twist, it's really useful to know the energetics of a twist. We think back to our chakra system. Sitting on the ground, Muladhara base chakra. More of that sort of, we'll come into it, Cobra, Baby Cobra, Svadhisthana. When we get to Manipura, remember navel chakra, this is like your fire element. It's the warrior shape, it's this big shape. You know you're in them. There's no mistaking when you're in a fire shape. But that's when you start to get like mad at me or the heat or the music or the person next to you, whatever. That sort of comes in. The heart is like these heart openers. We'll come into some heart openers this evening. Heart opener is a nice way of saying back bending. Twisting is for here and here. And if you look at what a twist looks like, maybe I hope that you'll be able to start to intuit which shapes work on which chakras. So if we come into a twist, what we want to do in every twist is engage something called Mula Bandha. So drawing the muscles of the pelvic floor up, and men have a pelvic floor. Drawing the muscles, I've got been asked that a lot. Men do have a pelvic floor. It's I probably didn't know that till I was a yoga teacher. Anyway, we draw the muscles of the pelvic floor up, we draw the muscles of the anus up, and then the lower belly. So have a go at that. See if you maybe close down the eyes because it's a lot of concentration. But see if you can just do one group of muscles at a time. Draw your pelvic floor up. So use your intelligence in your body to do that and let it go down. Draw the area under the belly button in and up. Might feel really similar to pelvic floor. And now draw the muscles of the anus up. Breathe and see if you could just even for a fraction of a second get all three drawing up and drawing up and drawing up. Beautiful. That is called Mula Bandha. A bandha in yoga is an energy lock. So we have a bunch of different bandhas in the body and we use them to push energy to where we want it. We use Mula Bandha in a twist. And this is like not a beginner's thing, but I feel like it's really important. If you know this from your foundation, then your practice changes. So when we're coming into a twist, energetically, if we think about we've got that line of energy that comes up through the chakras, and we engage Mula Bandha, and then we're bringing out across here, and then bringing energy to here and here. This is what that shape's doing. So come back into a gentle shape. I just want you to feel the difference of Mula Bandha. Let's do the other side. So bring left hand to right knee. And then just bring that right hand behind you wherever on the floor. Without engaging the lower belly, so let everything relax in the lower body. Just use the hand to pull the heart around and breathe here. Now come back. Hold the hand on the knee. Pull the lower belly in as much as you can. Squeeze the muscles of the anus to pelvic floor. Draw belly button to spine. Think about from behind the heart turning. And now turn the chin to the shoulder. Take a breath here. Squeeze those lower muscles in if they're not soft. And come back. Hopefully you could feel perhaps the energetic difference. So one, maybe not yet, feels like an arrangement of the body. And one feels like a direction of energy. Let's come in again and see if you can get that difference. Let's bring the right hand over. Let the lower belly go soft. Let the whole belly go soft. Use the hand to pull yourself around. Breathe here. Feel what it feels like in your body, for real. Good, come back. Draw the belly in, squeeze the belly to the spine, stay on the same side. Pull the muscles of the anus up, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Squeeze the tummy in and spin from the back of the heart. Line the chin up with the back shoulder. Take a breath here. Come back. Subtle difference, you may or may not notice it, but what we want to practice in a twist is that engagement of Mula Bandha as best we can. And if we forget about that, and we do, because yoga is chaos, you're in stress responses all the time, we're at least not going to have our pelvis follow us around into a twist. We twist all the time in yoga, so a twist might look like this, all right? And so the way we would keep this SI joint nice and protected is, and I'll cue you into this, what do you think about how to do it wrong? You've got so much muscle memory in your body. Okay, so the way to not protect the SI joint here, what we would see a lot, is the pelvis would swing out to the side and see that one hip's a lot higher than the other. We do something like this. So what I would say in a class, and this is why I'd say it, and if you do my classes, you would have heard it, is move the tailbone towards the right side of the mat and lengthen the left side of the waist and then extend the heart up. And then I've got this nice lined up pelvis. Do a little more through the back leg. You know, all these things the teachers are saying are things to try to get you, because we can't come to a class and just be like, everybody even out your SI joint. Right? So all of these things are built in for these reasons. So that's what we're trying to achieve in a twist, is just not putting torsion across that very, very, very low part of the back. When we lie down, we've got 3 parts of the spine that we will extend in a twist, and your teacher will talk you into them. I'm just going to demonstrate quickly so that, because I'm about to contradict myself in the biggest way. So we do a lot of supine twists, so laying on the back and twisting in yoga, and some of them will come all the way over and will stack up that SI joint. And then you'll start to open through from behind the heart. That one sort of follows along with what I have just said. But sometimes we'll do a twist that looks more like this, where you plant the shoulder down and the shoulder doesn't come. And now you do have this big torsion across the SI joints. If I was teaching a class and a bunch of people would come in and I'd said, is there anything I need to know about your body? And 5 of them said yes, so I've got lower back pain. I probably wouldn't teach this twist, because this moves the twist down. So here to here is stable. This moves the twist lower in the body. It feels really nice and it's really healthy to do. But if I've got a bunch of beginners with lower back issues, I'm not going to teach this. What I am going to cue enormously here is pull the lower belly in. So you will get twists that will move lower down into the spine, but they'll be pretty specifically cued to you. Like plant a shoulder down, and you'll feel a huge difference. If we have time, I'll take you through the 3 at the end. All right. So where you have quite a lot to put into practice, what do we use an inner spiral for? An inner spiral is where we lift the front of the heart. Forward, forward. What do we use an outer spiral for? What is an outer spiral? Hard open. The outer spiral is where you squeeze the bottom and lengthen through the lower back. We take the arch out of the lower back to push the heart up. Good. Do we want the hips to follow us around into a twist? No. Do we bow forward when we're bending sideways? Cool. So with a lateral stretch, just want to come back to this again, because some people have personalities like me and we're like, more is better, more is better, more is better. We think that getting closer to the earth is a better expression of the pose. Really and truly being more upright is what we want to go for. So these poses are going to tell you about your personality as well. All right, they're a really good way to learn about yourself. We're coming into a practice. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? One last thing I want to emphasize, please, bending the knees when we fold forwards. Forward fold is not about length in the back of the legs, it's about length in the back of the torso. So we don't want to hang in our forward folds. We want to bend the knees and lengthen this area. When you sort of got more of this connection, then you can think about the pelvis lifting up. Remember, I've got shallow sockets, so I can do this, yeah? And that's why I can do this. But forward folds for some of us, especially when we start yoga, they might look a whole lot more like this than like this, all right? And better they look a whole lot more like this than this, okay? Beautiful. We're going to start our practice. Please find a way to sit that feels okay for you. Free to use a block, maybe cross the legs. Take a moment to close down the eyes. With the chin bowed forwards, please just lift the chin slightly. Nice, easy passage. Very nice. Relax through the eyebrows. Take a moment here, please, to notice how you're feeling. We want to notice physically and energetically, mentally. Now start to deepen your breath. Breathe deeper into your body. Long inhale. Long exhale. I want you to take your breath to the very center of your body, that literal physical center of your body. Breathe to your center. Exhale from there. Relax the jaw, relax the eyebrows, and breathe slowly for 3 deep breaths to your center and back. After that third exhale, we'll meet our hands together, this union here of left and right hemisphere. Feel your skin against your skin. See if you could perceive from the left hand, and now perceive from the right hand. Take a moment to become conscious about what you're doing. So acknowledge that you're about to go through a lot of mini stresses. Decide that you're going to find your center in them. Become willing to feel things inside your body and to come into more beneficial resonances. There's a lot about to happen. Take a deep breath in. Allowing you to breathe out. Beautiful. We're going to stay seated to start our practice, but please rearrange your legs so the non-default leg is in front. So you're sitting the weird way, the way you would normally sit. Beautiful. And please bring the right hand around the front of the right knee. Extend that left arm up to the ceiling. Take a nice big breath in here. Beautiful. Bend the elbow, wrap the hand around the back of the head to breathe out. Relax your legs. Big breath in, push the head into the hand. Stay here as you breathe out. Pick up this right hand, sweep it across, reach for left knee. Beautiful. And now pull the lower belly in and start to turn your heart towards the curtains. Very nice. Relax the shoulders down away from the ears. As you take a breath in, push the head into the hand, lift the heart, look up. As you breathe out, the elbow that's in the air sweeps across the opposite knee. So round across. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Inhale's going to bring you back up. Bring those lower muscles up with you. Exhale's going to cross you across the body. Breathe out. One more time. Take a nice big breath in. Push head into hand. Exhale, come across the body. Peel the hand off the back of the head, wrap around the opposite knee or whatever you can get a grip on. Now your arms across, square the heart. Beautiful. Take a big breath into the back of the heart and pull that fingers on the knees to stretch the shoulder blades apart as you breathe out. Feel the back of your heart, feel the upper arms. Relax your legs. Squeeze the lower belly in, let the fingers slide off the knees to slowly come up. Nice work, everyone. Left hand's going to wrap left knee, and the right hand's going to extend up. Take a breath in. Bend the elbow, wrap the back of the head as you breathe out. Relax your legs down. Nice. Reach for opposite knee. Pull the lower belly in, twist from the heart to turn towards that bar wall, and take a big breath in, lifting the chin. As you exhale, elbow dives across the body for opposite knee. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. A big breath in, lifting up. Nice big breath out, come across the body. Sweep back up on a big inhale. Come across the body, feel into your body as the hand comes off the head. Heart to center, fingers reaching for opposite knees. Breathe into the back of the heart. Feel it opening. Relax the shoulders down away from the ears. Become fully conscious here. You're in an unusual position. Breathe right into it. And then let the fingers come off the thighs. Squeeze the tummy muscles to come upright. Let's give our shoulders the back of the spine. Tuck the chin into the heart, push the earth away. Good, lift the tailbone, drop the belly, squeeze the heart towards the little face and big breath in here. We're just continuing this. Cat cow, close your eyes if you can so you can feel the difference. In one movement, your spine is being stretched open, in the other, it's being compressed. Work with your own breath here. And now check if you're actually breathing. I want to not hold our breath. Notice where your preference is. Is it on opening the back of the body in that rounded shape, or is it on compressing the back of the body? And notice which one you don't like. You like less. Check and see if you need a sigh here, perhaps, if it's feeling like a whole lot of your body. And we'll take 2 more rounds, seeing if you can just exaggerate the movement. We're going to meet together and let's exhale in that cat pose. So really, really grounded to the back of the spine. Push the ground away when you get there and start breathing. Feel the shoulder blades come apart. Pull your belly button into your spine. Tuck the toes back behind you and now extend into downward facing dog. Take a nice long breath in and land. Maybe a nice big sigh. So in downward facing dog, we have our feet about hip distance apart. Our hands about shoulder distance apart, maybe slightly wider. Spread the fingers out a lot here. Squeeze your ribs in towards each other. And now imagine that block between your thighs. Roll it backward, backward, backward. Feel what happens. Beautiful, everyone. Hang your head down. Push the ground away with your hands. Feel what it feels like to be upside down. You might have not been upside down yet today. So find your center here. Find the breath here. We're going to float our left leg up to the sky, but keep our left hip in line with our right hip. So push that leg back. Take a breath here. Figure out which is the right side of your waist to make it longer. That was beautiful. We'll take a breath in together. The left foot's going to step lightly between our hands. The right knee is going to jump to the earth. If you want to do that in the opposite order, that's fine. Beautiful. So right knee down, left foot is underneath left knee. Plant the right hand opposite the left foot. We're going to come into a twist. So lift the left hand up to the sky to start with here. Beautiful. Pause for a breath. Now then think about which is the right side of your yoga mat. Move your tailbone towards the right side of your yoga mat. And that was beautiful. Feel what changed. Now engage those lower belly muscles and turn from the heart up towards the ceiling. You guys are awesome. Lift that heart forwards. If you're able to, add the twist into the neck by looking up into that left thumb out. And now re-engage the lower belly. Breathe and squeeze those lower belly muscles. Twist from the heart. Beautiful. Got one more nice long breath in here. Stay for your breath out. And then on no breath, float that left hand down. We'll frame the front foot. We'll push into our left heel to lift up. Big inhale here into your low lunge. Back knee stays on the earth. And as you exhale, bring the hands down. Hands will come apart. Bring them either side of the left leg. We're going to keep our fingertips on the floor. We're going to lift our chin looking forwards. And we're going to move our hips back, bring a little length into that left leg. Beautiful. Find your breath here. So calm yourself. Do the same thing with the tailbone. Move towards the right side of your yoga mat and feel what changes. And move it another inch towards the right side of your yoga mat. Very nice. Check if you've stopped breathing, please. Regulate yourself with the breath. We're going to gently bend into that left knee. Hands are going to plant down. Step back to hands and knees. Well done. Knees up, okay. Coming. Good. Take an inhale as you lean halfway forwards, lower your pelvis down. Elbows point backwards, lower the whole body onto the earth and point your toes. Good. Pull your kneecaps up off the ground. So think of a snake, this is baby cobra, like you push your tail into the ground. So drive the toenails into the ground, pull the kneecaps up. That's how much effort to the legs. Beautiful. Tuck the elbows backwards. We're going to lift up with the hands with you. Rising up using the muscles of the back, lower down. We're going to do that twice more. Baby cobra, lift up with the hands, push the feet into the ground, breath in. Lower down, breath out. One more time, baby cobra. Push your baby cobra tail down and lift up. Breathe, 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 breathe. Lower down, breath out. Take a breath in here. Push the hands and knees, breathe out. Tuck your toes, come back to downward facing dog. So standing upside down. Nice long breath in. Please dangle the head, breathe here. Remember last week we talked about all the energy moving to the crown of the head? That's what this shape is about. So think about the architecture of the shape here. We're arranging so that energy pours to the crown of the head. Broaden through your shoulders and unlock your elbows. Please, there's a micro bend in the arms. Press the fingertips down. We'll take one more long breath in. Stay here for a breath out. Your right leg's going to float up behind you to three-legged dog. Take a breath in. Figure out which is the left side of your waist and make the left side of your waist longer. Beautiful. Push that right heel back. Push, 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 push. Right foot stepping towards left knees coming to the earth. However that happens, it's totally fine. And then the right foot is underneath the right knee. So have a look and check if your right foot's underneath your right knee, and then plant your left hand opposite. Lift the right arm up to the sky. Beautiful. Start breathing here, and now we'll engage those lower muscles. So pull the lower belly in if you can. Pelvic floor muscles of the anus. Keep all of that pulled in and twist from the heart. If you can, line your chin up with the top shoulder. This time, think about the left side of your yoga mat. Move your tailbone a few inches towards the left side. That was so nice. If you feel what I just did, breathe here. Push the ground away and reach up even higher and think about the heart spinning open. And now check if you're breathing here. Notice if you're in a stress response, you should be. Steady yourself through it. You can feel things in your body and you can withstand sensation. We're going to take one more big breath in here. Stay here for your breath out. The hand that's in the air is going to slowly float down. And then push into the front heel, come to kneeling, hands together at the heart. Get nice and steady here. See if you can drop shoulders away from the ears. Lift the chin, take a breath in. Fingers going to frame the front foot on the breath out. Keep your gaze forward. See if you can do this slowly. So think of this less about checking how flexible your leg is and more about checking how deep your hip socket is as you start to try to find a little length in the front leg. We're going to do our best to keep our fingertips beside the foot. And the breath here. Tailbone is going to move 2 or 3 inches towards the left side of your mat, so a lot. Feel what that did. Breathe here. Open across the heart. Pull the shoulders down away from the ears. Find your center here. Find that willingness to feel things in the body. Very gently bend into the front knee. Let the hands down on the earth. Come back through hands and knees. You're going to breath in to lower your pelvis. And then breath out to lower the whole body onto the earth. Bring your legs together, push your toenails into the ground, rise the kneecaps up like you've got a tail of a snake. Full cobra this time. We're going to keep the hands on the ground. We're going to use them to push the heart up to the sky. Take a breath in here. Lower down as you breathe out, slowly lower. We're going to do that twice more. Pause for a moment. Please think about your backbone. Make the outer spiral. Roll that look forwards. And now lift the heart away from the lower back. So we're not crunching the lower back. Breathe in. Lower down as you breathe out. One more time. Open the front of the body. Big, big, big breath in. All the way to the earth. Breath out. Nice work, everyone. Take an inhale here. You can either tuck the push to high plank, or you can push to hands and knees, yogi's choice. You meet in downward facing dog. Please extend the hips up nice and high. What are we prioritizing the length in? The back of the legs or the back of the torso? Back of the torso, good one. So if it means bending the knees, gets that tailbone a little higher, please do that. Angles through your head, broad through your shoulders. We're going to fine tune our downward facing dog for a moment here. Spread your fingertips out and push them into the ground. This is how you avoid sore wrists in yoga. Push the fingertips down, unlock the elbows, tuck the ribs in towards each other. Beautiful. Everyone looks great in their downward facing dog. And now please imagine a block between your inner thighs. Roll it backward, backward. That's it. Take a breath in here. Stretch your breath out. Good. Take an inhale to prepare to leave downward facing dog. As you breathe out, walk the hands backward to the feet. So coming to the back of the mat. Bend the knees as much as you need to. Hands press onto the shins. Let's take a halfway lift here. Pause here and breathe out. Bring the hands into prayer pose. Unhinge from the hips. Let's lift the hands up to the sky. Take a breath in here. Bring the hands down to the heart. Close down the eyes. Mountain pose here. You come into resonance with a deep stability. You've got the steadiness of mountains. Remember last week when I talked about the energy and how it's infinite? That when you get that energy through the heart of one child, and you get a second child, that love is infinite. This is what you tap into in yoga. The energy of mountains is infinite. Tune into it here. There's something very steady in you. You're going to breathe it to life in this shape. And it's bigger and it's steadier than any circumstances that come at you. See if you can really feel that steadiness here. Beautiful. Bring your hands to feet together in front of the heart. Reach up to the sky, take a breath in, bend the knees, keep the length in the body as you bow forwards. You guys are amazing. Halfway lift, take a breath in here. Downward facing dog, please walk forwards. Breathe out. Next, inhale, going to float the left leg up behind you. Take a breath in. The left foot is going to step between the hands. However it gets there is fine. Keep the back knee off the ground. Both sets of toes are facing forwards. Press into that front heel. We're going to lift all the way up into a high line. So nice big breath in here. Take a moment to land the poses to steady yourself here. So a couple of things you want to think about. It's a long stance. If you feel wobbly, widen the stance. Beautiful. We're going to even up our pelvis. So bring the hands to the hip bones for a moment, please. Most of us will have our left hip bone further forward. So please draw the left hip bone back. Please lift the right hip bone. Beautiful. Tuck your tail. Squeeze the belly. And now push the heart up to the sky. Take a big steady breath in here. Stay for the breath out. You're in the fire shape, so it's going to require some fire from you. This is your transformation. Spin the back heel down, plant the back foot on the earth, beautiful. And now extend the arms out in line with the shoulders. This is warrior two. Put more weight in the back leg, and the back toes are on a 45-degree angle pointing towards the bar wall. Very nice. Load more weight in the back leg. Give me a wave with your front toes. And the front knee a little more now. Your eye gaze goes onto the front middle fingernail. This is how we contain the mind when we're in the fire. Remind yourself what it's all about. You're here to survive stress events. This is the warrior pose. Become the warrior now. Find that resonance. There's a really fierce, steady, powerful energy here. Tune into it. Lift the heart. Push the fingers away. Beautiful. Nice long breath in here. Stay for your breath out. You've got one more breath in here. High plank is your breath out. Hands come down. Lift the back heel up. Look forwards, please, as the left leg steps backward. Take a breath and high plank. So still firmly in our fire series. Steady your mind. And then bring the knees to the earth, point the toes, lower the heart all the way down. Cobra pose, take a breath in, push your tail into the ground, lift the heart away from the lower back, lower down, breath out. Tuck the toes, it's your choice here, taking a breath in, pushing to hands and knees or high plank as you breathe out. Downward facing dog, well done everyone. Breathe it out here. So you should have some energy that's been agitated. Direct it to your crown. That's why we come into this strange upside down shape. Compose yourself here. Practice is trying to pull you off center. Keep your mind steady. Beautiful, everyone. Your right leg's going to lift up, three-legged dog. Take a breath in. The right leg steps between the hands, breath out. This is your last little bit of standing work. So find that fire. Push into the heel and lift all the way up into a high lunge. Give yourself a moment here to land this. If you need to be wider, widen out the stance. Keep the hands in the air. We're going to do this by feeling this time. I'll play forward to you guys. Please push so much into your front heel that the right hip bone moves back a little bit. Very nice. And now lift your left hip bone up. Tuck the tail, pull the lower belly in, push the heart away from the lower back, then the front knee more. You guys are amazing. Spin the back heel down, arms open out, you're in warrior two again. Find the breath in warrior two. Could you contain your mind to the front middle fingernail? Remember I said in week one, we use the body to train the mind. That's what you're doing right now. Use your body, the feelings in it, to contain and control and command your mind. Bend the front knee a little more, put more load in your back leg. Heart lifts as your shoulder blades draw down and the fingers push away from the heart and become the warrior here. There is an infinite amount of warrior energy. Tune into it. Breathe like a warrior. You guys are amazing. Stay with one more breath in. Stay with the breath out. Inhale prepares us to leave here. Back plank is your exit. Hands down, lift the back heel, step lightly backward. Take a breath in here. Bring the knees to the earth, please point the toes, take a child's pose. So extend back this time. In your child's pose, your forehead lands on something. So if it's not landing on the earth today, it's landing on a block or your stacked fists and your shoulders relax. Slow down your breath and remain fully conscious about what's happening. There was just a series of short stress events. Decide that they're over. And decide in your nervous system that they're over by slowing the breath and the heart rate. You want that third eye, Ajna, pressing onto something here. Focus everything, please, on slowing your heart rate down. Beautiful. If it's possible for you to keep your eyes closed, all that's happening is you're coming from child's pose to laying on your back. So your feet will extend towards the front of your yoga mat. Head will extend towards the back of the yoga mat. Land with the knees bent to begin with here. Take a nice long breath into the body. Nice big sigh. Beautiful. We're going to just rest our hands in a cactus shape, bringing them out of the back of the palms, come onto the earth, so make this big T shape with your arms here. Good. With the knees bent, soles of the feet on the floor, take a breath in, drop both knees over to the right as you breathe out. Inhale, bring those knees back through center. Exhale, takes them to the left. Do that once more with your own breath, please. And then we'll meet with the knees back in center. There's no rush to get back there. There was a version of you that walked in here that had a resonance. Let that version go now as you come to Shavasana. Bring the hands down beside the hips and a little wider than the body, and the feet extend out wider than your pelvis. Eyes closed down here. And all you need to do is let this shape take place. Let the stress response end. your fingers and your toes and start to take the breath back to the very center of your body. If you're able to keep your eyes closed, please do, as you really mindfully find a fetal position on the right side, rolling to rest for a moment. Again, if you're able to keep the eyes closed, please do as we come back to a sleep for just a moment. Notice your breath. You don't need to change it, just simply observe it. And notice the effects of your practice. Perhaps something feels different now. Perhaps you have come into a more beneficial resonance. Bring our hands together in front of the heart, this gesture of gratitude. Please take a long breath in. Bow as you breathe out. Bow to yourself here. Genuinely acknowledge your efforts and your willingness to learn, and your willingness to feel in the body, and your ability to manage stress responses. There's a lot to bow to here. Bow to all of that in each other. Bow together to this sacred practice. Namaste. Perfect time. Thank you, everyone. We're getting really put through it because we keep getting the sweatiest nights of the week. Really. So the universe is like, these guys are advanced. Lay on them. All right. If you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Dave. Oh, one last thing. You should get an email tomorrow from Erin. And while you're doing the foundations course, we'd really like to give you unlimited access to the Dry Star Studio. So if you want to come in and put into practice or test it out in other classes, please do. So you'll get an email about that tomorrow. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you trusting me to teach you yoga.